Welcome to another episode of Education Affairs, where we discuss issues that are affecting the education sector in Zimbabwe. As you know, the Constitution of Zimbabwe provides that the state must provide education to every Zimbabwean. And we discuss in this program issues that are affecting the education sector. My name is Clement Lizio, and I am your host. Today, we are discussing a legacy issue, an issue that we have discussed for quite a long time, and an issue that has been lingering for a long time, and an issue that has affected the delivery of education in Zimbabwe. And this is an issue of teacher welfare. And to discuss this issue, I am joined here by Mr. Chigama and Mr. Chikodza from ZIMTA to discuss these issues. Welcome, Mr. Chigama. Welcome, Mr. Chikodza.
Thank you, Mr. Lizio.
Thank you, Mr. Lizio.
Let me start our discussion by looking at the provisions at law. What does the Constitution say when it comes to issues to do with the teacher welfare?
The Constitution of Zimbabwe is very clear. It talks about the rights of its citizens.
Yes.
And as a teacher, I'm also a citizen of Zimbabwe. I've got a right to a living wage. So it is provided for by the Constitution.
Are you saying you don't have a living wage? Maybe you can elaborate.
Oh, my heart bleeds when I talk of this issue. Because the teachers we have been made paupers in this country. Yes. So we don't have a living wage. Yes.
And maybe you may need to add.
If I may add on to that, it is the responsibility of the government to see it that teachers are well paid. Teachers would get what they deserve. Like any other worker in the country, they need to have a living wage where they can pay fees for their kids, where they can go to hospitals of their own choice. But this is not happening. Teachers have been reduced to nothing, where they cannot even send their own children to school.
Let's get into actually the collective bargaining that is there in terms of your welfare issues. We always hear there are these meetings that have happened. Teachers have salaries have been increased. There are some incentives that have been given to teachers. How true is that picture on the ground?
Right. First of all, the bargaining platform we have in Zimbabwe, it's not bargaining as such, but it's just consultation, where they will come with their package and they'll say, for this year, we are going to give teachers so much. How is it? They just want to get the sentiments from the teachers, but that is going to change nothing, because it's not a bargaining platform. So we are crying for a bargaining council so that we can also bargain for a living wage for teachers. So there is no bargaining in Zimbabwe, but consultation.
Maybe you might need to elaborate on the type of the bargaining platform that you're crying for. How should it be structured, and how different is it with the current platform that is there, which you are calling a consulting platform?
Yes, like the public service, they've got a bargaining platform because they are represented in the platform, in the bargaining. The private sector, the employer is represented. Also, the worker is represented. But now in our platform, this current scenario,
yes,
there is no bargaining, because the government will just send some representatives. Even if you ask them something which they were not told by the principal, they will say, we are going to consult our principals. So they will not come out with a concrete thing. Only what they are told to give us. That's what they will give.
Right. If I may add on to that, the platform itself is not level, whereby workers side do not have enough input in trying to decide what the civil servants in general and teachers in particular are going to earn. It is a declaration by one side, the employer side, to say this year we are going to give you 10%. And that is that. But the actual bargaining, the actual taking also issues from the worker side is not in principle. It is not recognized.
But Mr. Chikoza, we have heard the government announcing that they have given teachers some incentives. What are these incentives, and how do they cushion the wage?
Right. The incentives are just on paper. For example, they talk of fees for our teachers' kids, but it's not being honored in time. So, as I said before, that the issue of the fees is kids are not having those paid. So it is very difficult for us to have the issue of fees being paid in time. They also talk of incentives of loans, they talk of incentives of the cars and so forth. But just a few people are getting it. And for example, if I come back to the fees issue, not all teachers are going to get not all civil servants are going to get the fees itself. It's just those people who still have got children going to primary and secondary are going to get. But the rest, if you look at myself, I no longer have a child in primary school or in secondary school, so I'm not going to get anything. So that incentive is nowhere to be found. It's only found for just a fraction, and it is not again being fulfilled in time.
What happened? What went wrong to the teaching profession? What happened?
That's why I said my heart bleeds when I talk of the teaching profession. When I joined the teaching service as a teacher in 1981 as a temporal teacher, I was earning, I think, 1,000 times from what I'm getting today. Teachers were they were dignified because they had enough resources. But as for now, we are now ESCON in the country. People, we are being mocked.
We are discussing the issues to do with teachers. This is a legacy issue. This is a challenge that has been there. We are taking a break. We'll be back to discuss more about this issue that is actually affecting the delivery of our education. Welcome back to your program, Education Affairs, where we discuss issues that are affecting the education sector. And today we are discussing a legacy issue, the issue of the welfare of teachers. We were discussing the provisions that are there, but we want to look at how do the issues to do with the teacher welfare affect the learning outcomes itself. Recently, we have seen that there was a drop in the grade 7 pass rate by 0.0%, and we want to see whether it is linked. Is it linked? How does issues to do with the teacher welfare affect the learning outcomes?
Thank you, Seth. The issue really affects the outcome because where two big beasts fight, it is the grass that suffers. Now that the teacher is not getting what he needs, in the end, he's now moonlighting, where he's selling, most of his time is now doing other businesses, which we do not encourage. But we have got nothing to give back to that teacher. And in the end, he's now doing something else to make ends meet.
Yeah, but one would argue to say, when we were growing up, we had teachers who were also businessmen.
Yes.
Who were also running business, and and this issue to say the teacher is now looking for where is the link?
It's not a scapegoat. I joined the teaching services early in 1980s, where teachers were not supposed to have businesses. They were only going to concentrate on the teaching. and their remuneration was enough to send their children to school, to make their life a good one. But these days, it's difficult. I tell you, my brother.
Mr. Chigama, we are hearing of issues where teachers are actually requesting for grocery support from from parents, and is it happening? And if it's happening, how does it affect the delivery of education by the teacher?
Yeah, I cannot say it's not happening because everything now.
Everything seems to be happening.
It seems to be happening.
Yeah.
Right. For example, if they are asking for groceries, yes, we've got elite schools.
Yes.
They are doing that. For example, here in Bindura, we have got schools like Shashi Primary, the Bindura Primary, where teachers are given food to eat. And it's not surprising that they are being given some food hampers. But take, for example, a teacher in Kaitan, Mkumbura, where they cannot get, if the parents cannot even afford to buy a soap for themselves. So that means the education is now divisive. That means no learning.
And what happens if say maybe the parents fail to provide the groceries? Do the teacher continue teaching?
It becomes a very big challenge because there's now going to be segregation where teachers might now ask some pupils to go out of the class and only teach those who have paid what? Incentives. And mind you, these teachers are also parents. They cannot even afford to pay incentives for their children in other schools. So it becomes a very big challenge. So we don't encourage this system. The government should honor and pay teachers enough so that this cannot happen. Yes.
As I told you that I joined during the 1980s, teachers were self-motivated. We could teach these extra lessons for free because I was motivated. Now these days, I don't see it.
You are bringing another interesting angle, the issue of extra lessons, where we are now seeing teachers demanding to say you should pay for extra lessons. Is it allowed at law? And its effects on those that cannot that cannot be able to to pay the extra lessons, because we are seeing now teachers not deliberately not teaching and actually teaching in the extra lessons.
Yes, it's now a source of income for teachers for these extra lessons. You plan for the extra lessons, but not for these lessons.
So a source of livelihood.
Yes, because if a parent cannot afford to pay for extra lessons, that means the child is not being taught. And most of the things are being done, most of the syllabus is being covered during the extra lessons.
But Mr. Chikoza, we have seen to the extent of even the ECD learners going for extra lessons. Is that justifiable?
It's not justifiable, but it has become a source of living for the teachers. And you would find that nearly in each and every school, extra lessons has become the norm of the day, because this has created something for the teacher, and the child is suffering. You would find in a normal learning, they are just given a few, so that those people who pay extra lessons would now be given something in full. Now, if you compare results from different schools, you would find that where incentives are being paid, they've got a higher pass rate than where incentives are not paid. It is because the morale of teacher is down. The teacher is just going for that period from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock, finish, and then if there are no extra lessons, nothing is being done. Yes.
And the authorities within the Ministry of Education itself, are they aware of the existence of such issues, and have they taken any action?
They are teachers themselves. They know that this thing is happening, but because they are at a higher office, they pretend as if they cannot see.
and again, to add on to what he's saying, visiting schools has become a challenge for the ministry's officials from the district. So they might come once or twice per year, and they will see everything as being normal. Because if they come, they are just going to last for 30 or 40 minutes at the school, and they go. So during that time, they are there. Nothing is being done.
What is limiting the capacity to be able to monitor the schools?
Right. Number one, it's resources. Maybe they don't have fuel for their cars. But number two, how can you supervise a demotivated person?
Oh my God.
So it's also a demotivating factor on them again to visit schools.
We are taking a break from this interesting discussion. We'll continue when we come back in the next segment. We are discussing an issue that is really affecting the education sector, the issue of teacher welfare, which we would want to be resolved once and for all, so that outcomes within our learning institution is improved. Please don't go away. Welcome back to your show, Education Affairs, where we discuss issues that are affecting the education sector. And today, specifically, we are discussing the issue of teacher welfare. And before we went to the break, you were talking about, the motivation and demotivation of the teacher. But I want to bring in another aspect.
Yes.
The government is introducing free education. Free education versus a demotivated teacher. What is the result there?
It's a very interesting question,
Yes.
Mr. Atlisio. The government is saying it is going to provide free education for the learners. Let's take, for example, we have got the beam aspect running now in the schools. It's now 2 years without with schools without receiving those beam funds. And suppose now parents are not paying levies.
How are you going to run this school?
How is the school going to run?
Yeah.
Now we are now going to have a demotivated teacher and a demotivated learner.
Oh my God.
So it's a recipe for disaster. But it may be if like in 1980, that free education was introduced, but it was a motivated teacher versus a demotivated learner. And the education was taking place smoothly because the teacher was motivated. Even if you take me to the sea to provide my services, if I'm motivated, I will do that. Teachers are very innovative. They will do that. But now a demotivated teacher, a demotivated learner, a recipe for disaster.
I see your issue.
I wanted to add in here. There will be no resources for those teachers to use. So what are they going to do? They're just going to go to the classrooms and sit. No chalk, no funds to buy exercise books. So nothing is going to take place. So I would rather suggest that the government supplies stationery quickly so that there's something to use. The teacher is paid enough so that he does not look elsewhere.
So in other words, what I'm hearing from you is that you're saying the free education should start with the teacher issues being addressed for it to become a reality.
Yes.
Yeah. And Mr. Chigama, you had spoken about the issues to do with BIM. What is happening with BIM right now? And, in terms of running schools, how are you running schools? Because we understand that most of the learners, especially in the rural areas, are now falling under BIM. And you spoke about the issues of the late disbursements. How are you managing as teachers within these schools?
That's why there's a drop in pass rate. People, it's a disaster, Mr. Atlisio, in these schools because parents were there. In order for the pupils to be placed on the beam, that means the parents are not affording to pay the levies. But now the levies are not forthcoming, and then we expect the school to run smooth. Yeah.
And if I can add on to that, there's a very funny issue here, BIM, and the school fees for what? For teachers' children. In other words, teachers' children are now also going to fall under BIM. Is it feasible? A worker, a government worker, having children being placed under BIM. The government worker should be able to pay his own fees. we used to look at government workers as the best paid workers. That is our cry. Let government workers be the best. Because why? The government needs to supervise the public sector. How can the private sector, how can they supervise the private sector when they themselves are not able to pay the teachers a living wage?
Yes. But gentlemen, we have discussed the challenges, and the challenges are all out there for everyone to see. For everyone knows the challenge that the teacher is facing. Everyone knows that the teacher is demotivated. We just want now to drift towards the solutions. What could be the lasting solution from you as teachers? From you as teachers union to say this should be the lasting solution to these issues that are affecting, the morale of the teachers?
I think the first thing is to have a bargaining council where we are going to have a level platform for bargaining issues. I think that's the first thing for this to end. And also, we cannot just say government pay living wages, if there is no bargaining platform. So bargaining platform is needed, number one. And also, the conditions of service of teachers, like in the health sector, or they were the allowances were a blanket to all the health personnel. But why can't we do that to teachers? For example, this education allowance should be given to all teachers, regardless of them having children going for school or not. So if it is given as an allowance, education allowance, we also need to have examination allowance so that we get at par with our counterparts in the health personnel. You find that in every school, a head, whether primary or secondary, you can not head a primary school or a secondary school without having a degree. But in the clinics, they are doing that. You can even have a general worker in the health personnel earning 5 times much as the headmaster, which they ask only 3 O levels.
Yes.
So I think it's being very unfair for the teachers. So I think if that one is rectified, teachers will be happy.
If I may add on to that one. When we joined the teaching service early in the 80s, there was what they called each year increment, which was automatic. We didn't go for bargaining. If you got into service in September, come every 1st of September, your salary would have a notch. And it was automatic. These days, a person who got into service in 1980 and a person who got into service in 2014,
They
are
are at par.
And that one now kills the whole system.
whole system.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm saying reintroduce that one. And seniority should be recognized.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. But we are now drifting towards the end of our program. And I thought that we could not end the program without, discussing a very pertinent issue about the Teacher Professional Council. Maybe in a small snippet, what do you think should happen? What is happening with Teacher Professional Council?
I think that was it's a noble idea to have a teaching professions council, like what they did in the health services. They now have a health professions council. I think we need that as teachers because anybody these days they can just pick anybody from the streets and then you call him or a teacher. But if we have a teaching profession council, then we are regulated.
Yes. If I may add on to that one. Our sector, the teaching profession, has been looked down upon. Why? It is because anyone can be taken and be a teacher. Now, there are no regulations that will regularize the working conditions where laws are broken, where you are supposed to do what. So if we have got that council, it will spell out what is needed of a teacher. For me to be a teacher, to be a practitioner in the classroom, I should have 1, 2, 3. And that one comes from what? From the teaching. And it is also going to be responsible to look into my competence or if ever I'm going to break the laws, then they will punish me accordingly.
Gentlemen, it just leaves me just to thank you for the wonderful discussion. This is Education Affairs, and we are discussing the issue of teacher welfare, teacher motivation, a demotivated teacher versus the outcome that are expected to come out of a school. And we have seen the challenges. It's an issue that has been there for quite a long time. It's an issue that we need to bring to an end. But it's also an issue of financing within the education sector. And we are saying there's need for increasing of financing to the education sector so that all these issues are tackled. Thank you for watching the show. The show is Education Affairs. We'll meet again in the next episode. My name is Clement Lizio. Bye-bye.